Hi Sheila. Let's see how this goes with your calculator. Just printed off your picture that you did. All right. So when we're trying to evaluate this, we have negative 5 plus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 12 all over 2 times 2. What I would recommend, whether it's your calculator or someone else's, is to start with what's underneath this radical, which is the most inner parentheses. So if I was to compute this, I would take a second and do the negative 5 squared. So make sure when you're doing negative 5 that you are using the negative button. So most y'all's calculators, if you're getting a syntax error, you may be using a subtraction symbol instead of the negative symbol. So hitting this and then negative 5 and then enter. And then you could do negative 5 times negative 5, or you could use the squared button. Looking on your calculator, it's right here. Now the fact that it's in, I believe, yellow, you need to push this second function. So if it's in yellow, then you'd pick the yellow button. I did not print this in color. I'm so sorry. I think this is yellow and this is maybe blue on your calculator. But as you see behind the plus sign, you have that x squared. Whatever color that's in would be the shift button you'd push before you'd hit that. So, you're negative 5 and then shift, and then your squared button. Or again, you could just do the negative 5 times the negative 5, which does give you 25. The next thing that I would do is this 4 times 2 times a negative 12. And you could do negative 4 times 2 times a negative 12 to get your answer. Just keep in mind that you are going to end up this plus whatever that product happens to be. Those are two separate terms. That's not all being multiplied. So the negative 5 squared would give us 25. And then if we did the negative 2 times 2, or excuse me, negative 4 times 2 times a negative 12, I believe that's a positive 96. Okay, and then, taking that to a calculator to see what that value is, I think that's 121. So at this point we have negative 5 plus the square root of 121, and then 2 times 2 calculator-wise. At that point, I would take the square root of 121. Looking on your calculator, now I'm going to say this, the calculator looks like it has all the things that you need, but this is a financial calculator, not a scientific calculator. So 9 times out of 10, that's the biggest issue you're having, is that it's set up to do a lot of the financial math things, which if you're in an accounting class or whatnot, that totally makes sense. But for this class, it will work, but I imagine it is giving you some headaches. Anyway, so back to the piece at hand. Behind your negative symbol is your square root of x. Again, whatever color that is the shift button you're going to do. I believe on this calculator, you might have to put in the 121, and then shift and do the button. So you'd have to take the square root after the 121. I do not have this physical calculator, so I'm working a little bit deficient here, but doing the 121 and then the square root, which I believe gives us 11. So we have negative 5 plus 11 all over that 2 times the 2. At that point, the negative 5, you could, take your negative button, negative 5, and then negate it once more. You also could think of that as a negative 1 times a negative 5 when you go take that to the calculator. Either way, that's going to give us a positive 5 plus 11 over 2 times 2. I imagine we're okay computing that, but it does give us 4. 2 multiplication 2 gives us 4. When you're doing this problem, keep in mind we don't see it, but the whole numerator is in parentheses. So if I was to go back to our original problem, this whole thing, numerator and denominator, would need to be computed completely before you go divide. So for example, a lot of students at this point, let's say that was a 6 and a 11. It's not, but had that been a 6 and 11, a lot of kids will say, oh, there's a 6 and a 4. Those are both divisible by 2. I'll just reduce those. You can't do that. You can't divide over addition. You can divide over multiplication. So if this was 5 times 11, you could reduce like that. or 6 times 11 in my fictional example. But otherwise, you are going to have to get a total sum for that before you go do your division. So the 5 plus the 11 is 16 over the 4, and then that gives us 4 in the end. I'm trying to guess where issues are. Again, if I had to guess, it's probably in regards to that square root, and possibly with that negative a little bit, or where that squared function is. So just to review, if you go back to your calculator, this is fuzzy, I'm sorry, you have the physical calculator, but there's a x squared button behind your plus symbol, and there's a square root button behind your negative. And to get to those, you are going to have to push the shift button, whichever one's appropriate. Just the tone, even though I don't get the color on this, looks like this one is the appropriate color that matches up to the x squared and the square root of x. So you'd have to hit that before you applied that function. I hope that was helpful. I would be glad to do these more often for the whole class, as y'all are having specific issues that I can go through. Hope this was a good use of your time. Have a great day. Bye.